Hey everyone, so I have been sharing some book reviews. I started that in January and haven't done one in a while. So many of you know that I am a partner with Trades of Hope, and we work with various artisan groups around the world. And it's about empowering women, but men as well, out of poverty and various situations. My daughter Tori is a Spark with Trades of Hope, and she's been a Spark for a year now. I've been with Trades of Hope for almost 2 years, and she has fallen in love with Cambodia. So when I started the journey, I did pick up a couple of books, such as Kisses from Katie, and that is some of the stories of some of our artisan groups in Uganda and the Amazima Ministries. And I read a couple of other books last summer, and so this summer I was like, you know what, I'm going to find some things that talk about Cambodia, in real life Cambodia. Now, I realized that the book I'm going to share with you today, it's the story of Luong, and I'm sure I just butchered that. I tried to listen to it several times to say it correctly. But it's what took place with the genocide back in the 70s. And so you get to wander through her life and what it was like. So we'll share that book with you. But I realized that was in the 70s and this is many years later. And so it's not necessarily a current picture, but it kind of does give you an idea of just what some of these countries go through and the shifting powers and the changes and things like that. So, first, they killed my father, and apparently they had a Netflix movie about that. So I saw a couple of trailers, or not trailers, interviews with Angelina Jolie and Luong. So talking about the movie and such. So this one takes place in Cambodia, and it is told from Luong when she was 5 years old and up, and she chose to write the story from her point of view as a child. So you kind of get to see the book through her eyes as she goes through this. They're a middle class family to start with, and so life is good. She has, I can't remember if it's 8 or 9 in their family total, between the parents and then the children in the family. She had one sibling that was younger than she was, and so she wasn't quite the youngest, but she was still pretty young compared to the others. But then things happen to take over, and you see their world change, and the starvation and the being trained to be basically a killing machine at the ripe old age of 7 and 8 and 9 years old, watching as people die and then becoming a refugee at some point, and sneaking in and trying to get out of Cambodia and into Vietnam and then into Thailand and eventually to America. And she even recounts what it was like to go back 31 years after the fact to Cambodia. So highly recommend this particular book. I am going to let Tori read this one. I told her I have to read any of these books first because so much that goes on in some of these lives and some of these countries. Tori's 12, so there are some things I don't necessarily want her reading in graphic detail, especially at her age. But this one is a beautiful job of describing and depicting everything that happens without going into detail of some of the things that could have been happening. There's one situation where a guy does take her out into the woods, so fair warning of that one. But it does not become, it's not a rape scene, but it could have been. So she was fortunate and spared of that. So that's a warning for you. The more graphic is the starvation and the dead bodies and the what they had to eat. So that's probably going to gross Tori out just a little bit, knowing some of the ways that they had to survive. So just be warned of that. But for overall, what you're going to get into when you read this book, it's certainly not as graphic and such as other books possibly are. in this particular area of the world and the things that go on in some of these countries. It is definitely more about her life from the eyes of the 5-year-old on up, and what it was like to constantly be fleeing, to be trained to not speak anymore, so to speak, because of what is going on, and then the genocide that's taking place. So definitely a great read, definitely an eye-opener, well written. Not sure if I'm going to watch the movie depiction or not. I might try to look for that, just to kind of see how it was played out there. Follow Luong on YouTube. She has a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. She's very much an advocate for her home country while she is here in the United States.